Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and a very heartfelt thanks to Dr. Bryson for inviting us all here and to bringing me back to UBC. I was honored to be here a couple of years ago as a visiting scholar, so it's great to be back. And I, of course, had a fabulous little warm-up for you about my experience at the airport and how I know I'm not in Kansas anymore, even though I'm coming from Toronto to the West Coast, and I'm originally from San Francisco. And then my exchange with a woman looking at my U.S. passport and how she immediately asked me, am I a Democrat, and how you could spot a Republican a mile away. And then how, I watched the debate last night, and that had perfect points about the abuse of truthiness for the delivery of their political messages. But given time, I'm not going to give you that fabulous, funny warm-up. And fortunately, our colleague John Walensky did that. And I actually have a specific thank you to both John and Mary for their scholarly help in this long-term project. When I first started this project, it was at the University of British, it was when we were at summer camp at Dartmouth. And at the time, John would have heard a very early version of this before I began the research I'm going to talk to you about today, and I was using the term truth in a rather unproblematized way, and he was one of the people who said, you're really going to have to spell that out. So I'm really thrilled that today I'm going to make that question of truth and untruth quite a bit messier, thanks to the 3 years of research that have ensued since that time, and which is also thanks to SSHRC funding that project. And I also am very grateful to Mary's mentorship, because at all the moments when I was doing this new qualitative research, which is new to me as a humanities scholar, your assistance and wisdom, having done hundreds and hundreds of interviews and trillions of codings yourself, I'm very, very grateful for that. So what I'm going to be doing today, just to give you a sense, what I'm going to do first is tell you how I came to this project. Then I am going to give you a really quick overview of what was entailed in this 3 years of research. And then I'm going to share with you the theorizations that I came up with a brilliant young graduate student, Etienne Turpin, and how we worked out some thinking about ironic citizenship. But what I'm particularly excited about today is that hot off the press, truly hot off the press, I was out in the hall, Mary had to drag me in here, we have finished the coding of the truth and emotion codes, which will make sense to you a little in a moment. And these findings are actually able to help me sort of test, as it were, the hypotheses around ironic citizenship that I developed with Etienne Turpin. So I'm really excited to share with you. Yes?
Could you switch you to a microphone? People at the back
can't hear?
Can't hear.
All right.
We've got one right here.
Yeah. So as I was saying, what I'm going to be able to do today that I'm very excited about, because it's actually hot off the presses and brand new, is the findings of the final codings of our interviews, which has indeed made the question of truth and how people find their paths to truth in this very chaotic historical moment and media landscape that Mary just described, how they find that and what a messy process that is. So how I came to this project. The story of the project is thus. Once upon a time in 2001, I spent long and dark nights in southwestern Virginia, a culturally regressive and repressive place in the United States, which was quite a shock after my first job in New Zealand, which only compounded the repression that ensued after September 11th, the Patriot Act, erosion of civil liberties, blacklisting and firing of professors for political views, Campus Watch, and the sudden rise of news and journalism parroting the White House line as we marched into war in Afghanistan, and then an unprecedented preemptive invasion of Iraq in 2003. Those dark times coincided, however, with access to digital media at the same time that politicians and media arguably began systematically misleading the public in relation to the so-called war on terror and lies around questions of weapons of mass destruction and links between Saddam Hussein and al-Qaeda. And my book, Digital Media and Democracy, opens with the story of my public confrontation with Tim Russert in front of 2,000 people, in which Tim Russert, who unfortunately died right before I was about to send him the book and ask him for an apology, he actually told me when I said, have you not read any international news? Because he basically suggested that the news had the good work of journalists showed that the Bush administration was right to assess that they needed to invade Iraq, and I stood up because of the research I've been doing and said, have you not read any international news? And he thereupon questioned my right to be a professor given my version of the facts, and the audience cheered him on and booed me back to my seat. It was a very sobering moment, and so I hope you will read the intro. So this exchange really epitomizes the moment of the silencing of dissent at that time, which led to what I consider a public crisis of faith in truth-telling. And what really sparked this project, this 3-year funded research project, is that I saw at the same time these increased expression of demands for truthful accounts from media and politicians, alongside the paradoxical sense that all the world's a construction, and that, in fact, the only certainty is that we're living this irony, and that we're quite certain that we are being lied to. Now, of course, that's a great overgeneralization or generalization, but I really hope to show you how people struggle with that, and how through this survey and interviews and work that we've been doing analyzing digital dissent, we have some interesting findings about what that actually means to straddle that complex paradox. So I want to begin with thinking about that paradox of wanting truth so badly. And normally I show lots of clips, and given time I can't share those with you today. But a lot of the material that we've looked at shows that affective expression of wanting the truth so badly. And I would argue that the democratization of the internet, whether or not it's democratized, and it will soon be challenged as they tier the internet, and we definitely need to save the internet, and our heads are in the sand about that, and I hope that we can really do something quick, because in fact I can't even show you the Daily Show clip that I want, because CTV has taken over our access to Comedy Central. So the fact that you can't see the Daily Show clip that I wanted to show you, which is about the use of language on the part of politicians to call the economy unbad, is the economy perhaps unbad? It was a perfect clip to illustrate, and I literally have spent hours trying to do BitTorrent and everything to download it. We cannot access it. This is very, very serious. So parentheses, we need a social movement to challenge what is happening with access to the internet and cable-owned, corporate-owned digital sound bites. So what I began to notice was this grasping for fragments of facts. And so, for example, in the Bush in 30 Seconds contest run by MoveOn, and we studied all 150 of the Bush in 30 Seconds contest videos, some of them have this sentiment, and I'm going to show you one: Americans are dying for the truth. And as we know, in 2004, in Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, blog was the most frequently looked up word. Jon Stewart's appearance on Crossfire was an absolute watershed moment in 2004, when this man, who's normally seen as the funny guy, was seen to stand up and be the sincere guy and call for the media to take responsibility. And that was the most talked about political news item in 2004 online. And as you know, Time Magazine voted user-generated content the you of the world, the person of the year in 2006, and truthiness was popularized by Stephen Colbert in 2006. So that's an example of the landscape in which we find ourselves grasping for fragments of facts. So Colbert, if you don't know, here's how he coined it in 2005, so my prior date was wrong. It used to be everyone was entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. But that's not the case anymore. Facts matter not at all. Perception is everything. It's certainty. People love the president because he's certain of his choices as a leader, even if the facts that back him up don't seem to exist. It's the fact that he's certain that is very appealing to a certain section of the country. I really feel a dichotomy in the American populace. What is important? What you want to be true or what is true? Truthiness is, Colbert says, what I say is right and nothing anyone else says could possibly be true. It's not only that I feel it to be true, but that I feel it to be true. There's not only an emotional quality, but there's a selfish quality, so that you have a sense of what is meant by truthiness. Now, in all of the studies that, the latest codes that we've done that I'm so excited to talk to you about today,